Is Die Rise a bad map? I feel like 99% of players will say that yes, it is one of the worst maps ever made. I feel like there's like 1% of people that say that Die Rise doesn't really deserve the amount of hate that it gets. And I feel like Die Rise is in a weird position where it's kind of Transit's younger brother that's forgotten about. Because I feel like when you ask somebody what is the worst map, they'll always say Transit. But then if you ask them about Die Rise, they would probably flip and say that Die Rise is a really bad map. And I feel like Transit kind of infamous where it's the poster boy for a bad map and people are more likely to go play it because it's always talked about. And so I feel like Die Rise doesn't really get talked about a lot and gets overshadowed. And really for me, when the map first came out, I really didn't like Die Rise. I thought it was a really bad map and I barely played it. I would just go play Town. But doing the series and having to come back to this map, I really wasn't looking forward to it. However, after actually giving it the light of day and playing it a lot more, I kind of grew to like it. What I want to do today is I just want to discuss kind of the gameplay of the map. And then I do want to compare it to Transit because I do think that it kind of improved on Transit in almost every single way. So to start off, when you start the game, there's kind of like two and a half ways that you can go about getting set up on the map. And so the first way is that you take the elevator immediately behind you and you kind of rush towards power. The problem with this is that there aren't any wall weapons for you to buy. You only have your starting pistol, so you're more than likely going to have to immediately build the wonder weapon. And then the other way is if you purchase the door ahead of you. I see it as two different ways you can go about it, even though they technically interconnect with each other. And this is if you buy the door and you take a left, you can get down to the SVU, which is a really good wall weapon. And then it'll also lead you to the mystery box. You know, if you want, you can gamble to try to get a good box weapon, but it also leads you to the AN-94, which is probably the best wall weapon that's ever been made. But then the other way you can go about it is that you can drop down the elevator shaft to get the PDW and build the trampoline. And I feel like this is the superior way to kind of get set up on the map because building the trampoline gets you prepared for the jumping jacks, which are the new dog rounds, where every 4 to 5 rounds, you know, you get a free max ammo basically. But the nice thing about them is that if you kill all of them with 100% accuracy, which the trampoline makes it like super easy to do, you're always guaranteed a free perk. But the problem with this is that Die Rise introduced a new perk, which is Who's Who, and Who's Who has got to be the perk with the best jingle, but the worst gameplay mechanic. Because the way it works is that instead of when you go down and quick revives you, you spawn in as a doppelganger with the starting pistol, and you have to go revive yourself, and you keep all your perks. But the problem is you don't know where you're gonna spawn, and you only have your pistol, and so there's really not much you can do. You're gonna have to try to find a way to kind of train and get to your body. But Die Rise has a lot of close quarter areas and narrow hallways, and so it's really hard, especially in the middle of a high round, to be able to revive yourself. So it's basically just a death sentence if you end up getting Who's Who. And in a way, it kind of balances the free perk mechanic of the game, where every map before, if you're able to get a free perk, you basically get overpowered because they're all beneficial to you. But Who's Who is the first perk that is actually detrimental to you and you don't want it. And so it kind of makes you have to gamble whether is getting the free perk really worth it, which is an interesting idea. But anyway, whichever 3 ways you go about the map, you'll end up getting to power. And power is where you find out that we have random perk locations again. And I'm fine with random perk locations, but in this map, it's not just random perk locations. It's also the perk elevation. You know, Die Rise is all about elevation and elevators go up and down, which at least they're telegraphed by the shaking of the door. So pack a punching and all the perks, you never know exactly where they are, but you'll at least know their location once going about the map. And overall, just in general, I feel like kind of setting up on the map is the hardest part of it because of the narrow hallways and having to kind of figure out where the perks and everything that you need are to set up. But the map does have some really good training locations. You have the rooftop, which personally I don't like that much. I feel like it's a little too close quarters for my liking, so I tend not to do it. But then you also have the Buddha or the temple room, which is just a really simple train, a decently big area. But my favorite has to be the one side cliff right before the AN-94 wall by. I just feel like this is like the easiest place that I had with training, and the rounds really do go by fast there. And really to me, Die Rise is a pretty simple map that has some kind of annoying elements to it, but overall doesn't really spoil the experience for me. So now what I want to do is I want to compare it to Transit and why I think Die Rise is better than Transit. So first off is aesthetics. And the main thing is that both of these maps take place after Moon when the Earth got blown up. And so I would like to think of it as two different sides of destruction in a way, where Transit is kind of brown and dirty and foggy. And there's nothing really appealing about the map. It's kind of depressing. It's just nasty looking. But I feel like Die Rise has a lot of colors and the skybox is just beautiful. It's such a great view, and especially being on the rooftops, it just looks amazing. But even just going around the map, while yes, it does have like dark areas and there's a bunch of rubble in a bunch of the buildings, I think it's just a really cool setting for a map where you kind of have these like two buildings that crashed into each other. Things are upside down, like the mystery box or the AN-94 wall by, and you're kind of jumping from building to building and riding these like broken elevators. I think it is really cool. And the next thing is, I feel like both maps try to control the player's movement. And we all know Transit is long horizontally and Die Rise is a vertical map. Basically, the way I see it is you take Transit's map, you rotate it 90 degrees, and you have the layout of Transit. So Transit allows you to go anywhere you want when you want. However, it kind of deters you from doing that because of the denizens, which are super annoying and they punish you for running around the map. And then your best bet is the bus, which, stops every location. And so if you want a safe route around the map, you're going to have to use the bus. Or if you want to take a gamble, you have to get annoyed by the denizens. And for Die Rise, they try to do this by using the verticality of the map, where you're kind of committing to every location that you move to, especially when you're jumping from building to building, because you know that you can't get back to your previous location unless you do a full map train. And while this is annoying with the fall damage and all that, I personally didn't have a problem with that. I feel like if you just kind of play this map safe, it's not that bad, but it still is annoying, especially with the elevators, where the elevators kind of dictate how you move around the map. And so it's kind of up to the whims of the elevator whether you're going to go to where you want to. And really, I feel like Die Rise could have used like a master key. Well, yes, you do have the elevator keys that can call the elevator to you. I feel like there should have been some kind of buildable that give you the master key where you can call elevators to you and choose what floor you want to go to. And I feel like that would really help with the layout of the map. And also Die Rise, the map kind of encourages you to take risk because of the trampoline. Trampoline allows you to get to locations faster. However, it's a risk that you have to take that maybe you didn't line it up properly or you're going to fall off the map. And so really for me, I would never do this. I'm too scared to do it. So I would never use the trampoline to move around the map. I really only keep the trampoline for the jumping jack rounds for the free perk, which I really don't think is a great idea because the fact that one little mistake can end your entire game is pretty messed up and is not a very good gameplay mechanic. And lastly, the last thing I want to talk about is the wonder weapons of each map. And we all know Transit with the jet gun. The jet gun just takes super long to build and it breaks super easily. And while you have it, it can be a really good weapon. The fact that it breaks so easily makes it not really worth it. Where I feel like Die Rise, they heard all the complaints about the jet gun and made the Sliquifier really good. The Sliquifier is such a good wonder weapon. It also looks really nice. It has nice colors. It's just this really like wonky type thing where I think you use a sock as the stock and it's just really good, where you can basically kill an entire horde with just one shot of the Sliquifier. And while yes, it can make you slip and kind of fall off the map, it does kind of balance it out with how strong it is, where you kind of have to be careful with where you shoot it. Although I never really had a problem with it, except for the one time where I was like at a slope and a max ammo dropped further away and I couldn't run up the slope because, I was getting pulled down from the Sliquifier. But overall, the Sliquifier is just an amazing wonder weapon. And so personally for me, I think Die Rise fixed a lot of the issues that I had with Transit. While even though it is still annoying and having to kind of commit to locations or having to wait, I feel like having to wait for something isn't as annoying as kind of being punished. So for me personally, the denizens are annoying because they stop you from running. But at least in Die Rise, I'm still able to move around while I have to wait for the elevators. And I don't really mind that. So overall, I think Die Rise is a better map than Transit. But comparing it to every map before it, is Die Rise one of the worst maps? Is it one of the better maps? I think it's okay.